Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the movie Man of Tai Chi that I saw on Showtime. And the thing is, I was like going around and my mom had seen kind of the end of this and we kind of looked it up and saw that it was going to be leaving Showtime at around the end of the month. So we're like, let's kind of see what this is about and see what kind of goes on. It's a Keanu Reeves movie, and I kind of learned a little bit more about it. It came out in 2013. Keanu Reeves directed it, and watching it, it's like an hour and 45 minutes, and I have the jacket on for a reason. Now, granted, I do like Kung Fu movies, and this does follow certain kind of Kung Fu movie styles that go on with it. And I think it's an intriguing kind of concept to center around someone doing Tai Chi, because normally people are like, it's a very kind of low intensity kind of exercising kind of thing, but it's a valid form of martial arts. Now, granted, it's not as showy or flashy because it's usually redirecting energy and attack momentum, very much more of a kind of defensive kind of style, as we see showcased in this film. And I do like what they attempt to do with it, and I hope that Keanu Reeves does at some point try and direct other kind of movies, because this is definitely a directorial debut, and it has its kind of issues, but it's not the worst kind of thing that I've seen. It even has its kind of issues of certain kind of martial arts / action films that I'm like, what the fuck? Because sometimes we do have wires involved in weird stuff, but it's not like it's set up to be like this is a wire movie. We kind of see a lot of more up close and personal, kind of more realistic kind of martial arts stuff going on, and then at other odd weird points we have wire work that pops up for certain kind of other instances, and also certain kind of CGI effects to represent certain kind of things going on with chi and all that kind of stuff. So this movie centers around Keanu Reeves' evil, villainous antagonist character, Donica, and Tiger Chen, who is the protagonist. And we see that it's really kind of a little bit uneven to a degree, because we kind of bounce back and forth between the traditional kind of stuff that we need to see of like Tiger, the pretty much Tai Chi student to this Tai Chi master, and his descent into what kind of goes on and getting tangled up with Donica. So we kind of at first are introduced to this kind of stakeout scenario thing kind of going on, and we get this whole kind of subplot with this like police officer lady who's trying to like take him down, but it's so in the background sometimes. It's just like there needed to be a better kind of way to kind of streamline it, because it's like her trying to do her stuff with her cop stuff, and then we've also got the kind of love interest kind of popped up with Tiger, and then kind of dovetailing that into stuff with like Tiger's master's temple thing going on. It's like, oh my god, it needed to be a little bit more streamlined with what's going on, because it juggles a little bit too much of what's happening. Because we at first are kind of introduced to Donica with what's going on with these kind of like martial arts matches. We get, let's see here. Because Sun Jing was attempting to pretty much get this one dude to kind of flip and figure out and capture Donica. And the thing is, we see this kind of fight thing go on, and he is ordered to kill this person. He does it, and then we see this masked dude come in, kill the dude, and then we learn that that's Keanu Reeves' character, and that he masks up for whatever kind of reason, I guess to make sure that nobody sees his face, but it's not really. It's more like this is a bad guy thing to do, more than really explaining why he's doing it, if that makes sense. And then he stabs the dude because he found out that he was pretty much trying to turn him into the police. Then we see that, let me see here. Sun Jing is taken off the case by her boss, which you're like, that's kind of interesting. Later on, we find out that he's part of Donica's kind of shit as well. and then that kind of dovetails into seeing Tiger. We see him kind of going through, kind of learning English from a radio station thing, doing his job with delivery, of course, having him see the kind of office with the cute girl kind of thing, and then seeing him also go to his master's dojo and trying to work through the Tai Chi. But we see that instead of controlling his Chi, he's usually kind of letting it control him. And seeing him kind of go through that process is the pretty much best kind of part of the movie. I do think that that's the kind of strength that goes on with it, as showing him being a little bit too much on that kind of issue and trying to balance the yin and the yang, that kind of balance of like being controlled by your chi versus controlling your chi, and what kind of goes on. We see him going into these tournaments and trying to show that Tai Chi should be taken seriously as a form of martial arts, and how he works out with that, and it's like, oh, cool. But then we see that Donika's like innocence, and it's like, what? And we see weird kind of shots of Keanu doing weird kind of, not weird kind of things, but like him getting up and then sitting in front of a wall. And it's like, okay. And it's just those little kind of things that just kind of pad out the film that I understand are supposed to add maybe ambiance or atmosphere or something about the character, but I don't really get much of it. It's more just like almost padding out time of like, you could kind of like get this a little bit better together. And the thing is, we also start getting introduced to more of the kind of fighting aspects, and this is where it gets really nutty, where there's a lot more kind of jump cuts and edits in the action scenes, which make it kind of harder to follow. Granted, I could understand what's kind of going on, but it's like woo, 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 and you're like, this is annoying, and even though I could keep track of it, it really kind of breaks up the flow of the action scenes, because I kind of want to see what's kind of going on. That doesn't mean you can't do transitions, but it's got to be understood of how to do it. If you're doing very quick cuts in very quick succession, it's like, ah, shit. Whereas instead, if you see a fight move kind of to a natural progression point where you can rotate perspective, that's a different kind of matter entirely. Where in this, we then see that Donika then sets him in his sights, tries to pretty much tempt him with money. Let's see here. But that's, of course, he's like, no, I'm not with that. But of course, Donika then goes with the other means, pretty much gets these developers to pretty much go and foreclose and try and take the temple where his master's is. So that's, of course, where Tiger then pretty much goes and acquiesces, and we see him learning these kind of fights and doing these kind of things and getting more kind of letting his chi kind of take him over and go more brutal and more aggressive in his attacking style. But this also needs to also get into the effect that he's being fought in very kind of like surprising circumstances, trying to make sure that he survives, and he's developing his own kind of technique. But we see him getting more kind of angry, more kind of using his power to solve problems rather than his mind, and letting himself be in control of himself. Seeing him pay off the stuff to make sure that the temple was safe, getting new stuff for his parents, taking care of his parents and all that. And we see Donika trying to like up the pressure, and we see him kind of going through each kind of successive fight before we start, and also giving him certain kind of things where he can surveil him and all that before he pretty much gets him into a point where it was like Sun Jing's informant to try and force him to kill. He, of course, is able to snap himself out of it. He's like, I'm not killing him. And he's like, no, you're gonna kill. And then, of course, he goes to the detective who had pretty much seen that they were kind of being together. And it's also kind of weird because this goes around different kind of places in China, but it's not really doing a kind of globe-trotting kind of aspect of flying around to different places. Only kind of works if you, I know it's stupid to see the kind of things of like where you're at, but sometimes you need to do that so that way you're like, oh, okay, this is where Tiger usually is, and then going to other different kind of places, because I'm like, does this detective even have jurisdiction here? I mean, granted, this is an international crime syndicate thing, but yeah. So he kind of goes, he doesn't want to do this kind of stuff anymore. He also has a confrontation with his master, and his master is able to redirect his energy back to a kind of palm strike on him as he pretty much goes very aggressively at his master, and his master is disappointed in this kind of turn of events and wants him to kind of like get back under control. And this kind of helps him kind of get that kind of perspective, as well as trying to almost getting into a blind rage of almost killing someone. And see, the thing is, we see that kind of aspect come up later on in the movie because he gets really injured, but not to the point of being killed or whatnot. But it showed that his energy was in a very striking kind of manner because his master was able to redirect it at him, and seeing the injury and the bruising was a very good telling sign of that. So we pretty much get this whole kind of thing where the detective tries to pretty much track his phone. We see that this one dude kind of throws his phone away. They try and kill the detective, but Sunjing is able to get out of it. We see the boss is linked up with Danica. Tiger then gets the whole kind of spiel from Keanu where he monologues. Well, not even really monologues. It's not really long, but he just plot dumps it and explains, the thing is, I saw you and I wanted to pretty much turn you into a killer. It's like, interesting. And he's like, you're going to kill someone there. And Tiger's like, no, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to stop you, motherfucker. And we get his next opponent, which is the one main actor from The Raid, which was kind of cool to kind of see. Now, granted, I still need to watch that film as well. I've seen bits of the second one and bits of the first one, and I need to sit down and watch them. I've heard that they're very good action movies and really do very good stunts and coordination like that. So I'm always into that. Action, when done right, is a very pivotal element, and action movies, when they are firing on all cylinders, are up there with the best movies. It's just a lot of, like, the thing is, it's almost like horror, where it's an easy kind of medium, horror, rom-com, comedy, where you can pump out something as a done-by-the-numbers kind of thing. But when you get someone that really knows what's going on with it and really knows how to execute on it, you're like, yeah, this is worth it. And in those, you can really find some good examples. And I mean, the John Wick series, and it came out after this. So we see that he's attempting to force him to fight and kill this dude, but he just essentially circles around the thing, and the camera's like, fuck it. And he tries to fight him, but then he knocks his face mask off, and his camera's there. And the thing is, he utilizes this to show the world that he could do this. It's not just illegal fighting and like illegal killing. It's him turning and changing this person into a killer. It's like, god damn, that's really fucked up. And then after the face mask is knocked off, he's like, you owe me a life. And then he runs away and he escapes. And like, the funniest fucking thing is, he's this rich asshole, but he had to like swim across this water to get away from everything. It's like, holy fucking shit. So we then get to the end, and we do get a pivotal fight scene between Tiger and Danica, as we see them with their different kind of clothing. Tiger more in a kind of gray, showing that he's kind of like, because in the beginning we see him in the kind of white suit, and then we see him into more darker colors, as with even like a black kind of jacket, as he is getting sucked into Danica's world. And then we see him more in a gray kind of shirt, as we see him fighting Danica, and seeing how the different fighting styles go on, and then him utilizing Tai Chi effectively to redirect Danica's attack to kill him. Now granted, he's like, I turned you into a killer before he dies. It's like, no, you didn't. You were providing killing blows yourself, and he redirected the energy at you. So you killed yourself. Like, he still doesn't even really get that about Tai Chi, which was interesting. And then that's kind of the end. The temple gets saved, having a work of the modern and the old, because the thing is, after Tiger was getting into his whole kind of thing, his brutality went into the tournament as well. And of course, they're like, we're not doing the historical preservation, because that's how they were attempting to try and do it to save the temple. But after he has done this and brought up the whole kind of illegal fighting and stopped that, everybody kind of works together. Yay! He gets together with his kind of love interest. Yay! And Sun Jing becomes the superintendent, and Tiger also decides to open up his own Tai Chi school and kind of pass on his teachings and everything that his master had. And it's like, yeah, because now you've learned. Now granted, you did have respect for Tai Chi, you were using that in the martial arts tournament, but now you understand what Tai Chi can actually accomplish, and it's cool to kind of see that story throughout the movie. Now, it's the execution that really gets down to it, because this feels longer than an hour and 45 minutes, because there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on, a lot more kind of certain kind of fighting styles going on with kind of jumpy kind of action scenes. I think certain things could have been streamlined and effectively worked in, because the detective lady kind of disappears for a good bit and then just pops back in because the plot's like, hey, we got this motherfucker out here, why don't we bring them back in here, kind of shit. It's like, oh, alright. And it just needed better kind of cohesion. Now, I have seen worse movies, cohesion-wise. This is a jacket that's like, I liked the attempt, I like the respect for martial arts movies. There's just all these kind of things that make it like, come on, man. And the thing is, as a first kind of directorial debut, I think this is a perfect kind of one, because it shows you have respect for your source material and everything, and you understand what works on them, and you just need to figure out what didn't work execution-wise on these, because looking at this, at least according to Wikipedia, that cost like $25 million and like bombed at the box office with $5.5 million. And it's like, damn, that sucks. But I don't think this is like a horrible movie. It's definitely worth being like, hey, if I made a movie and an action like martial arts movie like this, I would be happy with this, because this shows what I can do, and then I can learn from this and make better ones. And I hope that Keanu Reeves does that, because you can tell the heart and passion of this. You just need to fix a few things. Understanding of dialogue, characters, how to interweave them a little bit better, certain kind of transitions, what characters to focus on really, and which ones, because you need to have your main focus anchor characters, and then you do need characters around them as supporting, but sometimes you don't need to focus on those supporting ones that much, or you just need to check in with them and understand how they kind of interwork with the story. I wouldn't hold this up as a great example of an action movie because of the problems that it has, but I think it is a decent example of an action movie, and that with a cool couple kind of like tweaks and whatnot, it would really be firing on all cylinders. I don't think of it as a waste of time, because I at least enjoyed what I saw, and I was like, oh, this is a movie showcasing Tai Chi as a martial arts. I'm like, you don't really see that often, and I really have to hand it for that. Excuse me. Oh, but I am glad I watched this, even though it did feel longer than it really should have. I would recommend this to anybody who, well, it's funny. Keanu does at least try and play with the villainous kind of aspects, but I think that's more down to the script. I don't think he wrote this. He might have had input or whatnot. Let me see. Yeah, it was written by someone else. It needed a little bit more. I do like trying to see him as a villain or whatnot. And granted, you could call his John Wick character somewhat villainous, depending upon who you're kind of like positioning towards with perspective-wise. But I did like seeing him trying to be more of an antagonist with this, and it just needed a little bit more of what was kind of going on there to really pull that together. If they had focused more on him and Tiger and really kind of honed it down and gave them some really good content and things to work out with and spread out from there, this would have been awesome. And I would still recommend this to any action fan or Keanu Reeves fan. It's not overtly violent or gory, so I would really actually recommend this to anybody checking it out. I don't think it's really a waste of time, but you have to know what you're going into when you're watching this. Don't go into this being like, this is going to be the action movie to save all action movies. No. This is a decent action movie that has some issues, but I think that a lot of people would have a good time with it, because it's got your typical kind of action movie kind of story, competently done and told. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.